Night, it felt really important to do a video update. We have a bunch of parts for making a cart for an inverter TIG welder. Nice little mobile thing to get around the shop, hold compressed gas, the welder, maybe some rods, other odds and ends. And this stuff had been sitting on the work in progress cart for quite some time, and the drawing was lost for what all these parts were, how they were intended to go together. So while it's still a little bit in my memory, and just took a quick look at the shop notepads that are around, and it might turn up yet. So drilled and tapped some holes last night and started making it so it's easy to put it together and to modify it if necessary. So in this day and age, doing more rapid prototyping with bolting items together, which means not having to go and zip cut things apart, torch things apart, plasma cut things apart, a lot cleaner, a lot neater. So that's been happening. And the other thing is put some polyurethane, a couple coats of polyurethane on all the wooden tool organizers for around the shop, for at the lathe and the milling machine and for the radial arm drill. So those are in a neighboring building that's vacant. They're off gassing, so that's always a great thing to have that strategy in our back pocket. And to have the pneumatic paint shaker out, mixed up some paint that was intended as a color match for a machine, and the machine never ended up being painted. So it was important to mix that paint up to test that color match, just to see how that machine never came to be painted. Turns out the color match wasn't correct. So that's a project that can be crossed off the list because it's not going to happen until well into the future. It's pretty low on the priority list unless the paint had been right. Then it might have made sense. But as it stands, the other thing that is a great work in progress is this machine toe jack, which is all fused together with the TIG welder, which is a process I really love, especially having a great way to clean off with this mill scale and fuse this side of this plate, and behind this front plate here, fuse this plate as well, which kept everything together. And if you look in here, this front plate is stitched there and there and there. So really thinking about order of operations, putting this stuff together. All these plates are faced off to length, and a really great check we did because we had some cold rolled blocks in the corners to keep these things 90 degrees. So one of the best tests we did was taking this carriage out, which is this piece right here, slid it out, turned it 180 degrees, and dropped it back in, and everything here is down and square. So if everything is square both ways, then that means all our corners are 90 degrees. Everything's going to work out. The other part that was a concern is that this plate here hangs down past this plate here. So that's the slide down past. And it slides down past both ways when we turn it 180 degrees. There's clearance. Was thinking about putting a chamfer, a little lead, just in case something was hung up, or if there was a tendency for it to hang up. But that is going to be a future concern. We're going to get it all welded. We're going to see how everything else goes and do all the parts that we do have control over, have those all refined, and then worry about the little details later. This project, it sits at times for a week here, a week there, and realizing part of the rapid prototyping as far as shop projects that aren't a rush, but that we want to do well with our prototyping process. If it's not a rush, it's nice to be able to let things sit and really think if all our processes are in line in terms of, one of the concerns with this is if we weld this with flux core as opposed to TIG tacking, it takes a lot of time if something pulls during the welding process, if something doesn't work. So if it's something we're not doing a lot of flux welding on similar parts, well, there's going to be a learning curve as far as what's going to happen when we put a certain kind of wire in a certain machine and use a certain process that we're not doing all the time. So really refining what we're doing up to that point, because there's certain processes that are easy to stop partway through, to reverse, in terms of if we're just cutting material and it doesn't fit together, well, we just cut a new piece of material. But if we start welding a whole bunch of different pieces of material together, then all those pieces, like being married to something, it's like being in a contract. All these things are in a contract with one another, and cutting those welds is like breaking that contract. There's going to be fallout. So really being careful and thinking through the process, and that's where things like that welding cart, bolting more parts together, has been one of our answers. The other one, you can't really see it right now, is having a spot welder, which is really nice, in addition to the TIG welder, where even some aluminum parts we've successfully spot welded during the prototyping stage in order to see how everything fits together with very little commitment. Don't have to drill a hole, you don't have to. So, depending on what the part is, what it's meant for, what the aesthetics are, how it's designed to look, sometimes the spot welding process is just perfect. The other thing I was thinking about, I was telling a friend who was visiting the other day, is saw one of these edge sanders, which I've had some challenges with getting this belt to track. So it always wanders up or down. Made a new mechanism to tilt this tensioner, which is here, and the original one is here. So saw one of these there's someone who builds really interesting furniture, Sam Malouf. Anyhow, Sam, I think, is out of California, or was out of California. Well, the company is still around. Sam is now on the other side. The belt sander, the edge sander they had there, had a turret with 4 different diameter spindles, which means they must be setting up their machine very quick and realizing that there's a way to optimize this for a lot more versatility, and that we're headed in the right direction in terms of this machine is going to have some versatility, especially if we choose to set it up and add something like a turret, that it will be a machine that will be quick and easy to set up once we come to better understand, once we find some other people who have encountered the same challenge with a machine like this. So at this point, it's one of those things where we just haven't gone and bought parts to throw money at a solution. So one of the other thoughts with the drive wheel not having enough crown, the thought crossed my mind to put some high temperature tape around the center of the drum to create a crown, which anyone who's familiar with conveyors, certain conveyor rollers have a crown in the center. A lot of different sanding drums do have a crown. So it would be one way to add a crown that might have enough precision to allow the belt to track. Even though it's a piece of tape going around, you just begin and end the tape very close so it doesn't have a rise. So anyhow, thinking about how to do things in a way just quick and easy and allows gathering more intelligence for more wisdom for a solution that's really going to fit. So whether we're doing that here in-house or providing that service to others, valuable stuff. I don't know if there's anything else to add, but that's most of the thoughts. We've also been back to sorting out some things with some corporate tax stuff that's need to be sorted out, and realized Canada Revenue now requires a certain .cor file type, which you need specialized accounting software. And there's some, anything ranges from $1,000 a year plus down to $60. So we looked at the $60 option, and we were filling out a bunch of forms in there, because apparently even if you do mail in your T2 corporate return, you would receive something like $1,000 fine. So the government really wants to mandate a certain type of file, which is great, because then that means there's going to be more people understanding how to use the software. There's going to be better software. There's going to be more initiative to develop better software or to have software that it's easier to plug in information from spreadsheets instead of adding every number individually. So staying optimistic on that one, but it was a curveball weren't expecting in terms of thinking we could submit some different PDF forms, which the government provides out these PDF forms on the website, but you can't always, after 2024, January 1st, 2024, there will be fines for anyone who's doing that. So anyhow, that was just an interesting thing where staying, learning what the trends are, and being able to pivot where there's always going to be some tax or something, and just having a creative workaround, having the foresight to see things through, and not spending the time getting worked up and saying, oh, why are they doing this? It's wrecking my life. Just say, okay, time to pivot, on to this next thing, and knowing not to let that stuff take up our mental space, which is limited. So that's one of the things, whether we're an entrepreneur or we just want to enjoy our best life today, protecting our mental space from things that are out of our control, and really working on our relationship with powerlessness in terms of there's some things we're just not going to have control of no matter how much. If we had all the time and all the money in the world, we're still not going to be able to control what anyone else is doing necessarily. So to know not to try, but to also work on our best game in terms of inspiring others, being the leader we want to be, and when something's bothering us in someone else's life, to look at what that means in our life in terms of how could I be doing that differently in my own life? Because if it's something I'm seeing in someone else that's bothering me, it's probably saying more about me than it's saying about them. And putting things where they're in the realm of control for us. Anyhow, I'm going on some kind of crazy rant Sunday night. I think I'm gonna go take it easy. I've been in pizza making mode in my personal life, so that's been interesting. I think I'm gonna go and enjoy a slice of pizza that's left over from earlier. Made pizza 3 times this week, so hopefully you're finding things in your life that you're enjoying. Comment, like, subscribe if you want, no pressure, but it's always appreciated. But if you write down in the comments, I've been making an effort to read and to respond and to really think and feel what's going on for anyone else. So, thanks again. Until next time.